It's so hard for anyone to want to change, and it's so hard for anyone to believe that they were living a lie. It's hard, man. It's a euphoric moment when you get to know you. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy Kendrick, and this is another episode of Talks with Ken. This is episode number 4, matter of fact, and I got a good little lineup for you guys today. It's not going to take too long, like my old pastor used to say. I'm going to be strong, but I ain't going to be long. And that's a good segue for what I'm going to talk about today. And I can't wait, my good people, to talk about this. This is kind of a big discussion between, a lot of me and my friends, and I see it around in the world, and I see a lot of people who are lost, even though they're quote unquote found and stuff like that. So I really want to talk about religion versus spirituality. Let's talk about it. The reason I want to talk about this is because so many people find themselves or lose themselves internally on this one topic. And I think it's the beginning of not really understanding what you're doing, where you're going, who you are. So let's dive in a little bit about that. And I'm going to be vulnerable with this. In my life right now, my adult life, there's a lot of individuals that have asked me, like, are you a youth pastor? Are you a youth minister? What position do you hold in the church? All because the way I carry myself, all because the way I speak, my vernacular, and the energy in which I talk to those around me. And they instantly go to, you must hold some type of position at a church, which may or may not be right from their point of reference. But this is a nice point to start talking about, as far as like, you don't have to be quote unquote in the sanctuary to be a great person. I'm going to step on somebody's feet, but we got to have this conversation, and I'm here for it. Okay. I go around with a smile on my face because, number one, I know who I am. I know where I come from. That's physically, mentally, spiritually. I know who made me, who created me. I know my task here on earth. Now, again, I'm 41 going on 42 years old, and it's taken me probably up until 34 to really, really get into this. So let's break down this whole religious versus spirituality realm that we're in. And I have this topic that I like to say, I'm more spiritual by way of Christianity or religion. And I'm not going to give you the very definition of religion and what is spirituality, but my definition of religion is more of a construct, some bylaws that were set forth by the Most High that those individuals follow and they live their lives by. And spirituality is the laws in which you live by that can come from the religious teachings, but that goes everywhere with you. Meaning, my definition of religion is a place, a structure that like-minded individuals go and, pray, worship together. They have the same synergies around the same time based off of the same word. Spirituality is the walk in which I believe the Most High wants us to do regardless, outside of church. So that's how I kind of govern my life. Now, my background was born and raised into a Baptist church, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the individuals. I loved my family members. I loved the teachings and all. But I was still kind of lost. I mean, we was there. Bible study, Sunday school, church, Wednesday service, revivals. You name it, we was there. And when I got into that early adulthood, I tried to apply a lot of what I thought to be true from my younger life. Now, I had a lot of questions. Then, but I was just kind of mimicking, kind of following the masses, right? Not saying that was wrong. That was my point of reference. I was a child trying to figure it out within the confines of a church. And, I would only read certain scriptures. Like in school, I was only going to read what the teacher told me to read. I was only going to read what the Sunday school teacher told me to read. It didn't really grasp me, right? So I really had to look at someone to give me that authoritative word. I had to look at someone to give me that understanding. meaning I didn't have that relationship for myself. I didn't have that understanding for myself. And then, I go into my young adulthood and I was like, I'm doing everything that the word say. I'm leading the way in which he wants me to govern, but I still felt empty. I still felt lost, and I was following it. I was following it. Before me and my wife we got married, we had a wonderful marriage counseling in which we had to do, I think, like 4 months of like marriage counseling under our pastor, and which was very eye opening and very beneficial, definitely for me. One that was still trying to find out his way, and I was wanting to go into this marriage with a firm understanding, right? And so after we got married, I still had this burning uncertainty. Me and my wife went to church every day, read our word, and I still was something was fighting. Something was pushing and pulling on the inside of me. And, so what I did, I said, you know what? Let me read the Bible for myself. Let me read it from Genesis to Revelations. Let me do it myself with an adult mind. Not the adolescent mind, but with an adult mind. Okay, that was one. So I ended up reading it through and through, and it probably took me. I think it took me like 7 months. I think it took me like 7 months to read it all the way through. Now, my wife didn't like me doing this time because I was like literally a student of the word. I was a student, and nobody could pull me away from it. Every night, I really had to go into my corner to kind of dissect the word, not just read it kind of at face value. But I kind of did at the first time, kind of reading the stories, getting to know what books were where, what characters, and what characters were who, and stuff like that. I did that. I was like, man, that don't sound like I'm not understanding it like how I've been getting it. I just don't understand it the way that some of these pastors have been preaching this. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm not getting it. Maybe the things that I felt in my heart as I was reading it didn't come out like that from all these pastors, right? And then, hey, are you enjoying it so far? I want to take a time out right now so you can click this link to become a part of the Talks with Ken family. Go ahead, click the subscribe link below. I appreciate everything you're doing for me. Let's go on this journey together, okay? Now, back to our regular programming. See you on the other side. I'm going to probably fast forward maybe another year. And what I do, I read it again. And this time, I think it took me like 5 months. This is how much I was like really engulfing myself in this. And then not only was I reading the Bible, I was reading other scholastic sources, like not just reading it at face value this time. I'm looking a little bit deeper. And I find out, I did read it the first time, and I did understand it the way I thought I understood it the first time. And then you looking like, wow, there are other individuals who said this many eons ago. I'm not going to get into specifics of exactly what those contradictory reports were, but I will keep referencing this one, Hosea 4:6, my people perish from lack of knowledge. And this is why I say I became spiritual by way of Christianity. And because my understanding had to go a little bit deeper. And that relationship, in which I really didn't know, you'll hear pastors say, you got to have a relationship with God. And I would even say, I didn't know him, but I do now, right? I would say that in that relationship also means having a relationship with yourself, because now this is not like a Christian forum or format. This is only for you to understand the mindfulness, the portion that I'm trying to go after in you. And that's understanding who you are and within, and how to lead your life, and being okay with you by yourself. Okay. And then how to take charge of your certain situations that involve you. This is why I'm getting to this. So I'm not going to get too deep into scripture today, but I just want you to kind of get where I'm coming from. But the difference in applying what Jesus was saying in his word is what I was learning to do. And it was more of I think some people call it Christ consciousness. It was more of that, not really the who said what in the Bible, and then comparing myself to that. Anything, I'm going to tell you this right now, anything that takes you away from you is not for you. Anything that takes you away from hearing your voice is not for you. It's not going to be conducive for you. You're going to always be trying to measure up to something or somebody outside of yourself. You done already lost. You done lost the game, and a lot of y'all already know what I'm talking about. Now, so when I go into the word, if there is anything, anyone that you are putting between you and the Most High, the direct link, you are automatically trying to figure out a median or talking to something, somebody else. When I'm gonna tell you this one thing, little side note. KRS-One, a lot of y'all probably know who he is. He had a sermon that he said some time ago. He was like, I looked at myself as God's secretary. And what I found out is when I was solving God's problems, my problems instantly went away. That's that interconnectedness I'm talking about. That's in everything in life. If you believe that you are less than, guess what? You are. If you believe that you already have the victory, guess what? You do. I'm making it sound a little bit easier and simpler than what it is, but that's how strong your mind is. And if you dig deep in the word, you can look at other scholastic sources, that teaching of which in which it came from, that's what they're talking about. You have that power. Hey, I mean, if you go into the Bible, Jesus already said you got the victory. He said you are like him. He said it. But what we get this misconstrued at is when you go to a church today. Not all, but when you go into a church today, you can go in and get your ears tickled. You can. You can go in and feel good for that moment, but then you get in the car, you're going to be arguing with your spouse, or you can be arguing with your kids. You ain't going to apply anything that that passage just now said. Now, why is this? Why is this? Right? Ownership. Okay. But my biggest thing is like application. You have to have application of what you are one worshiping, to what you're listening to. And you got to have this studious attitude about yourself. Just like, that's what the pastor said, but does this relate to me? That's what the pastor said, but I don't really understand it. Let me go and, look through my notes. Let me go and be a student of it. And that's pretty much what I did for at least 9 years straight. Like 9 years straight. My wife can attest to this. And that's where my freedom began. And so by way of religion, I began to understand me, because you got to think about it. What the Bible, y'all can go and quote me on this if y'all want to, but the Bible, what is this? What, 2,000 years ago? Humanity is like 200,000 years old or something. Then I started to study, like, what did we do as people before there was religion, before there was a Bible? And that's going to be that's going to be a tale for another show, but I'm going to get into that because I think a lot of our mental bondage comes from that point. And at first, I didn't even know that was a thing. I can even look it up. It's kind of hard to try to look it up, but certain books you're like, well, what can I believe over here? What can I not believe over here? What can I dismiss? That kind of a deal. You gotta rub a lot of lamps. You gotta look through this thing, because again, you're a student. If you don't want to be lost, you got to find out you. And so me, I wanted to go through and figure out what was causing this disconnect between those who are in the church. I've seen individuals that be in the church for 30, 50 years, kind of still in that same lower energy level, but they show up, they tithe, they're faithful in their belief, and their energy levels are still low. They say they believe, they say that they have overcome and they have the victory, but they don't really believe it. And I say this to anybody who's in any religion. If you are a follower and doer of any word code, you ain't got no choice but to be spiritual. And my definition is spirituality is walking with me every day, wherever I go, every day. And you have the choice. You have the choice. You got to choose what programming that you're trying to bring out into this world, what kind of energy you're trying to bring into this world. And that's really big. And you got a lot of people that just want to choose violence. I mean, in a literal stance and in a metaphorical stance, some people just want to be mean. That's between you and you. I mean, some people want to just give unequivocally. Like that peace walk that's going on right now. If you listen to them, and I've read a lot of Buddhism, and I would implore you to as well. There's a quote but I have to. I think it's by, let me see. Sorry, y'all. I should have been a little bit more prepared, but there's a note. Dalai Lama. See, it's right here. And Dalai Lama, for those of you who don't know, he promoted interfaith and harmony. Okay. He believed that different spiritual paths can help tame the mind and achieve inner peace. We all are a part of the greater whole, right? And this is pretty much what I've come to believe about life is, yes, we all got to have that journey, but in that understanding of who we are. And you do that by really going inward. You have to question everything. And then those individuals who question it, they seem to be a little bit different. And I have this saying is, the more I search for God, the more I find me at the end. With that, some people say that's bad, and some people say that's good or whatever. But my only goal, my only mission right now is to sell you. A lot of my problems go away when I know there's a God inside of me. I mean, there's a God inside of me. There's a God inside of my kids. There's a God inside of my wife. It's just that we come from different points of reference. We gotta sharpen that tool, and that's why I said one of my YouTube shorts. We have to respect the God in everybody. I remember before I went to college, I was like, man, I'm so blessed to come from this religion. Like, ooh, I'm so happy to be a Baptist. Boy, ooh. And then I started meeting individuals from overseas. I'm like, man, y'all kind of cool. What? So y'all aren't all bad? You know, no. And so when you start to live life a little bit, just the common sense part stand up. You're like, okay, well, this isn't bad. So I told my boys, if I was to die today, always ask the question why and get information for yourself. Because regardless, the only thing that's real is what you perceive to be real based off your inner dialogue. If you think that you're living in a purity hell, guess what? You are. And everything you see is going to be harmful. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be scary. But if you believe by your walk with yourself and your creator that you already have the victory, you do. It's as simple as that. You do. But if you have that one iota, that one inkling, that like, man, yeah, I got the victory, man, but I'm tired today. Just that right there, just, words have power. Just that right there, it instantly sets you back. And so, but by way of my religious and spiritual walk, that was one of my biggest eye-opening and freeing moments of my life. That took me to more of the political realm. That took me to neuroscience. Who thought that I would be reading neuroscience books, dealing with quantum physics? But if I can say this, I loved my religious upbringing because I believe religion, when it comes to relationships, that's pretty much the best authoritative word pairing that gives us a guide to how to govern our households. Because where there is no order, there is chaos. And it tells, the husband's how you should treat your wife, wives how you should treat your husband, children how to obey and respect your parents. And then the order in between your household and your extended family, it gives you all of that. You got to compare a lot of things. And then, like, I even studied, I think it took like 2 years to study this. I even studied what was going on during the time of the writing of the Bible, what wars were being fought, who had the authoritative word to print, all that. I had to study all that just to get a fuller understanding of the word that I was following. And then some of that stuff that I was following was combatant with my inner part. Like, this don't really feel right. This don't feel right. And then so that point of reference could be different for you, totally different. But this is what I'm gonna paraphrase. It's like everybody has to have that walk, or everybody has to have their relationship with their God. Everybody. And nobody can't tell you, nobody can't help you with it. Nobody can't help you with that. You have to go inward. You gotta be the one that's like, you know what? I'm tired of being tired. I want to figure out me. What is going on up here? Why am I feeling this way in this type of situation? And why am I feeling good in this type of situation? You gotta get to know yourself. I mean, easy as that. And it ain't easy. And so let me tell you this. It's so hard for anyone to want to change, and it's so hard for anyone to believe that they were living a lie. It's hard. But man, it's a euphoric moment when you get to know you. And then you start to study past historians, philanthropists, poets, authors. You get to look at a lot of different areas and you're like, wow, all of them are pretty much saying the same thing, but this is the natural progression that took place over the years. And so once you do that, you kind of got a reference on where you're coming from. Now you kind of know who you are, right? And then you look into like, okay, this is why I am the way I am. So it's a lot of analytical parts. And then like the more of the spirituality part, it's more of a feeling. You feel like you're walking with your creator. You feel that. And you already have dominion of yourself. Every situation you're in, you can choose how you look at that situation, whether it's a good one or a bad one. You can choose what kind of energy you bring to the table, right? Bruce Lee, he said, you must be like water, my friend. And basically he was saying is, if it's a bad situation, yeah, that happened to me, but what can I learn from it? Yeah, that relationship didn't work out, but what was that telling me about me? Was it me? But you get a chance to choose. You get a chance to mold yourself. You get a chance to take away what don't feel good, add to areas where you want to. That's the beauty about what I'm trying to create for everybody else. It's just, man, and I'm going to give you a lot of reading dialogue stuff that I use to help me. But my library consists a lot of financial books, spiritual books, mental wellness books, mindfulness. It's a lot of relationship books, stuff like that, which I believe helps when you can pull from a lot more knowledge than where you come from. That's why I like travel. When you go anywhere further from where you were born, your point of reference is so different. And then you can see that some of the social norms that you thought were normal aren't so normal. Then it opens you up to different. And once you're open up to different, now you're a student. Even a lot of my learning came from individuals who were opposed advocates, individuals that was opposed to my way of thinking. And then so instead of closing it off, you actually open your receptors up, listen to the conversation, and then you're like, wow, okay, why was I thinking the way was I thinking then? That's how you learn. That's how you learn. And then, like I said before, the anxiety and anxiousness, all that stuff comes from not knowing, not being able to control the outcomes. That's a little bit of it too, but you got to push through it. Because remember, you have a God in you, and then you have dominion over your life. You do. And so we're going to work on this together. But this religion versus spirituality is a big thing for me, because I know a lot of my unleashing who I am came from knowing and figuring out me. But that came from knowing history, really dissecting different religious beliefs, faiths, and then putting them to use for myself. But if I can say this one thing before I get off of here, between the churches and things of that nature, when someone's trying to learn the word, dive into the word, and then from you, that other individual's point of reference, they will say, well, that ain't what it said. That ain't what it meant. You just don't know what you just did to the individual. So a weak-minded person, that can make them walk away. And the individuals that's trying to seek it, they'll be like, challenge accepted. Let me do it. But there's no right way to come to personal enlightenment. Personal enlightenment. We all come from different walks. Personal enlightenment. I'm going to say it again. But when someone's trying to find out or figure out their faith, and you have someone rebuttal, well, that ain't what it meant, and then you can go to another church, well, that is what it meant. They just don't know what they're talking about. Now you got turmoil within the churches. And now that turns those who are trying to seek away. Now, that wasn't me per se, but I've heard, I've seen it. So, my vote would be find what works for your inner dialogue. And mine was through Christianity, through which gave me more of a spiritual walk with myself later now. And I feel free. Now, this whole video, I'm not denouncing any kind of religious denomination, none of that. None of that at all. So don't leave with that on your mind. It's just, I want you to take time to, number one, kind of look for yourself, dig deeper on the inside to find you. Okay? because God has already seen the path that you're going to go on, and it's up for you to catch up. But that feeling that's on the inside of you, you feel it. Whatever it is, you feel it. And I know it's people out there that's confused right now, that are in positions of power, that are confused. Um, it's just one of those things where I'm here to help in any way I can. Okay? I'm here to help any way I can. So if you guys right now would go ahead and send me those questions and those DMs, I am going to go ahead and take a look at them. Matter of fact, I need to go and catch up from the ones from last week because I did see some coming in. So you can do it at my Gmail, talkswithken26@gmail.com, or Talks with Ken on all social media platforms. And that is the cartoon character. Okay. So with that, I will digress and I will see you guys on the next episode. All right. With love, Kendrick. Peace.